Welcome everyone. So we begin. Let's take a nice deep breath. Hold a space for this special night, for this night of connection. Being joined together with the purpose of rising higher on our spiritual path. Being connected, being truly touched by Spirit, living our commitment for 2021 to be awakened and to live in an awakened state. We pray for one another. We pray for our country. We pray for all that is moving toward a place of consciousness awakening. Removing our egos, removing our fears, even if it's just for tonight, even if it's just for a moment that we can suspend our fears and move into a place of holy instant, holy connection, in awe and in wonder. We spend a few moments in silence now before we officially begin to be able to be in a space of inner reflection. Let's all move in deeper, quietly, suspending all external noise, and move into a place of deep knowing of our own self.
Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. I am found, I am can breathe. I am healed. I am free. 'Cause you are strong. You are sure. You are light. You endure. And you are good. Always true. You are light. Breaking through. And you are
Let's all sing. Let's raise our voices. Sing together. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. See what is true. Here's my life. Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Speak what is true. Keeping your hand on your heart.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Let's stay in that inner place of awareness of our own awakening. That place of connecting with spirit, with one another, with our spiritual family. Bringing our prayers to our consciousness and sending our prayers out into the world. Let's feel our heartbeats. Press your hand against your chest and feel your heartbeat. Breathe into your heart. Imagine that you're filling your heart with love and light, compassion and kindness, gratitude, and sending that energy out into the world. For hope, for healing, for a shift in consciousness, here and everywhere. And we're so grateful for this calling to this spiritual path that we share with one another, because all minds are joined. Tonight we're joined with gratitude and with openness and willingness to be a voice for God in the world, to be a voice of compassion and kindness, to be a voice of our brother Jesus, who guides us and teaches us, and directs us, and gently nudges us back when we stray, saying, I'm just waiting for you. I'm right here waiting, ready to take our hand with love and compassion. And so we extend that love and compassion to others. Tonight in this sacred gathering, we feel our hearts opening, willing, softening, forgiving, praying harder, rising higher, forgiving steadily, loving readily, knowing who we are, that we are beloved, and that we look into the eyes of beloved when we look at one another. And so we begin this time together with gratitude. Blessed be, blessed be. So hi everybody, happy Thursday. Welcome. Welcome to those who are here, welcome to those who are there. We're all together united in this joint purpose of awakening. This year, where Miracles with a Twist is dedicated to using the material as a tool for awakening And we've said it year after year after year that, we're learning things, but we want to apply what we're learning, and then we just want to be what we've learned. We want to actually live in an awakened state. And there's so many times when we can look at ourselves at the end of the day and think, well, that just wasn't a 24-hour accomplishment. And because we're on the spiritual path. That's what we're doing. This is spiritual practice. We are continuously finding those areas of our life that continue to remind us that we need to work a little bit harder. So we focus on those areas gently, kindly, with compassion toward ourselves and toward others as well. So today we're going to be talking about how knowledge moves us toward wisdom, and how we're using the knowledge that we're gaining in the course to move from heady to hearty, so that it's not just about what we're learning in our head, but what we're incorporating in our hearts. Remember, we want to be miracle workers. We want to be able to shift our consciousness in a time when we may have at one time moved in a direction of anger or upset, and we want to have that miracle shift. We want to be able to know that instead of going to my upset, instead of being foolish with my words, that I can move into this gap of silence and consciousness and then do it differently. So, of course, the Miracle says that the first step in being a miracle worker is having a change of consciousness. And then the second step is to actually function in the world as someone who has risen to a higher consciousness. And so in the first chapter, there's 50 principles of miracles. And the first one that I want to talk about today, and just briefly, because we're really not going to be talking too much about the principles, I just want to point this out as sort of a foundation for what we will be talking about today, is number 15. Miracle principle number 15, which is in chapter 1, way in the beginning of the text. And it's if you have this version, the blue version, Foundation for Inner Peace, it says, each day should be devoted to miracles. The purpose of time is to enable you to learn how to use time constructively. It is thus a teaching device and a means to an end. Time will cease when it is no longer useful in facilitating learning. And what that means is when we get to a place where we have learned and we have begun encompassing a way of being. Now I want to add to that from the extended version, which is the Circle of Atonement version. It has it elaborates more in different areas of the text. And what it says for principle 15 is interesting, because it says the same thing, but then it says, in addition, it says, since only eternity is real, why not use the illusion of time constructively? So it's sort of giving us permission to be in this world while learning to not be of this world. A Course in Miracles is not a woo-woo kind of thing. It's not about pretending that you're not having the experiences that you're having. It's about learning how to rise above those experiences while you're having them, and to learn how to incorporate your spiritual practices. I belong to several Course in Miracles discussion groups, and there was one, this one woman was saying that she was really upset about something. It was a very specific situation in her life that she was upset about, and so she reached out to the group to ask for some perspective on her upset. And there were people who said things like, there is no upset, it's all an illusion. Mm-hmm. And I was really feeling bad for the lack of compassion, because we can use anything as a way to avoid the truth of what it is we need to do, right? It's like using any scripture or any sacred writing and avoiding the true emotional connection. So what here she is opening herself up, vulnerable, to say, I'm having this anger, I'm having this upset, and she was met with a number of people who just sort of dismissed it by proselytizing a course material. That's not what we're here to do. That's not how we rise. How we rise is by being in it, being in the world, feeling our feelings, experiencing what it is that we're experiencing. There's times when our emotional body has to heal. There's things that you can be as spiritual as Mother Teresa, and then something triggers you, and suddenly you're the Wicked Witch. And you're wondering, well, how did that happen? Why was I the Wicked Witch today? Well, because there's a part of you that has not yet healed. So if we're not willing to look at that, touch that, and heal those areas of our life, then we're not going to have an integration of our emotions with our spiritual self. And you know, it's true for a lot of us, you know, that there's areas of our life that still need healing. And so let's not pretend that that's not there. So to be a miracle worker is even to apply these principles to yourself as you're learning to forgive yourself and to heal within. A few weeks ago, I told you the story, just came to mind. A few weeks ago, I told you the story about some guy who was screaming at me at the CVS when I had first hurt myself, and I was looking for some ointment. And this guy was screaming, and I realized he was screaming at me, but not really the real me, and it wasn't the real him. You know, he was like having some kind of a psychotic episode, I guess. Well, strangely enough, I ran into him again, the exact same guy, this time at the Dollar Tree. I love the Dollar Tree, I confess. I just had to have something from the Dollar Tree. And I heard yelling, and I looked over, and I was like, oh, it's that same guy. Well, I mean, isn't that strange? I mean, it's kind of like on the same block. You know, the CVS Pharmacy and the Dollar Tree are very close to each other. I thought he must hang out in this area. So he was yelling, but this time he was sort of taking it up a level. He was very pointedly aggressive toward one of the cashiers there. And she picked up the phone. She said, I'm going to call the police. So he left, and she went behind him and locked the door. The door had a bolt, a serious bolt. He came back and kicked it in, popped the bolt out, stripped the area where the bolt was, and came back into the store. So now there's a whole bunch of us in there, and everybody was frozen. And I thought about it later. These are the thoughts that went through my mind. Why didn't anybody do anything? Why didn't anybody record it, try to stop him? Then I said, well, why didn't I? Why didn't I do anything? Because I froze. I froze. All of us froze. And I would think, like, in a perfect world, I would say, oh, in this scenario, I would know what to do, and I would know how to handle it, and I would be, you know, this, you know, awakened self who could, you know, sort of mediate the situation. No, I froze. I got scared. There was a part of me that just got scared. So the guy is screaming at the girl, and she's walking backwards, and she's on the phone with the police, and he was screaming at her. And I thought, well, the least I could do is be close to her. Like, maybe I could just be a presence for her, because nobody else was doing anything. Everybody was standing on the line, just sort of staring. And I thought it was interesting, because so many times when you see these scenarios out in the world, somebody records it. You know, people would take out their cameras and they record. Nobody was doing anything. Everybody was just frozen. And I think it was the shock of him actually breaking through the door with that one kick. I don't know. He was like Mr. Miyagi. I don't know how he did it. He just, boom, broke through. So I walked toward her, and I thought I just wanted her to have somebody by her, you know, just to be close to her. So I walked toward her, and he left, because at this point, I guess he realized the police were coming. And I asked her if she was okay, and she said, yeah, you know, by the time the police get here, he'll be gone. So she just described him to them. And the reason I'm telling you all that, because it really doesn't have anything to do with the lesson, it has to do with the fact that we have to heal different aspects of ourselves. And that's part of our responsibility. It's not about just quoting A Course in Miracles. It's not about pretending that we know a whole bunch of good words to share with one another. It's about knowing that we are responsible for our own healing. And our healing is on lots of levels. And so when we are honest and true and vulnerable about what's real with ourselves, then we can spend more time and more dedication and more commitment to our spiritual path, to our spiritual growth, and to our spiritual advancement. Yes, Lisa?
I think you should do a foreword to A Course in Miracles, because the first few lessons are so annoying, which I know for me,
I love that you said that.
The past 30 years to throw them up. What do you mean the table isn't here?
So yes, so Reverend Lisa was just saying how annoying the first several lessons are, and it is often the reason why people start A Course in Miracles and then throw the book against the wall and come back 16 years later. Or like me, do the lessons for 20 years before I start to get it. So what you have to understand is that the way the system was created was that, and many of us don't do it this way, is that you do the text first and you get sort of a basic understanding for the metaphysical foundation of the teaching, and then you start to apply it. So once you start applying it, you start realizing that what you're reading is contrary to your habitual way of thinking. And so it's very direct and purposeful in trying to deconstruct that way of thinking. And so once we get past the first review, which we're going into now, the first review section, we have to really look at what our resistance is and what have we been going through while we were trying to apply those lessons. So yeah, it's funny because it's so true. I've been doing them for 30 years almost, I guess, about almost 30 years. And I still find the first 10, 20 lessons difficult to reconcile with, although I am starting to be able to integrate them more. But yeah, there's a lot of years. There's a lot of years of that. So let's go back to, I got a little off track, didn't I? So with a twist, miracles with a twist. I'm going to be like everywhere. Stream of consciousness. So it says, let me repeat. This is from the CE edition. Since only eternity is real, why not use the illusion of time constructively? You might remember that underneath are the everlasting arms. Now here's a really important piece that I wish was in the FIP edition. It says, begin every day with the prayer that says, help me to perform whatever miracles you want of me today. So every morning when you start your day with your spiritual practices, whatever they are, hopefully I'm speaking to myself too, that your spiritual practice isn't the gospel according to Facebook, or your emails. And hopefully your spiritual practice really is your opening prayer. Opening eyes, opening prayer. Opening eyes, opening prayer. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Tell me where to go. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to say and to whom. What miracles would you have me perform today? If we open ourselves to be the miracle worker, then we might be surprised to see what sort of circumstances, people, and events appear in our path. And we have the opportunity to interact with people all the time. Sometimes it's to perform an act of kindness. Sometimes it's just a kind word. And sometimes it's a redirection of our own selves. Right? So maybe we start noticing, the miracle that I performed today was that I didn't say that thing that was on my mind. The new me, and you realize, wow, I'm changing, I'm learning, I'm doing things differently. So that's our dedication. Miracle principle number 15. So the other thing we want to talk about today, which we're going to concentrate the rest of our time on, is in chapter 3, section 3, starting to look at how we can apply what we learn to a deeper inner wisdom. And by the way, Tanzua is monitoring the live stream, so if you have questions or comments, she'll be looking at that, because I can't see. I squint and try to see, but I can't see who you are. I can't see this morning. I can see if you send me hearts. Why don't you do that? Send me some hearts. That I can see when the hearts start flowing. That I can see. All right. Chapter 3, section 3 in the text. Perception versus, oh, thank you. I see them now. Perception versus knowledge. Now, this is a really important point. And to go back to what Reverend Lisa was saying, when you're doing the workbook in the early parts of the year, and it's telling you that my thoughts do not mean anything, and these things that I look at do not mean anything, you're like, what? Well, this helps us to understand that everything we look at with our physical eyes results in a perception and a judgment and a determination to define what it is we're looking at. And it's interesting because earlier today, Pam and I were watching the memorial service for Gerald Jampolsky, who was one of the first students and teachers of A Course in Miracles. He was very good friends with Judy Kutch, who was the first publisher of Foundation for Inner Peace. And he went blind toward the end of his life. And he said that he could see more clearly than ever after he went blind. I thought that was so interesting because the Course is always reminding us that our physical eyes are projecting out into the world, and it's a world of perception and judgment. So let's see how we can unpack that, as they say. It says, we have been emphasizing perception and have said very little about knowledge. This is because perception must be straightened out before you can know anything. So that's why the lessons tell us, I don't know what anything is for. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know if this means anything. And the reason we have resistance to that is because we put so much meaning on what we're looking at. You know, if you're looking at a tile on the floor, maybe you're not that attached to it unless it's brand new. You just put it in, right? It's all like a matter of, you know, how attached you are to something. Or you're looking at a piece of paper. But then what if you're looking at a picture of your child? What if you're looking at your brand new car? You know, the different things, we look at them and then we apply meaning. And when we apply meaning, we're realizing that we're attaching a perception that may not be shared with everyone, so it's not necessarily true, right? Because what's important to me may not be important to you. I may have bought a brand new car that has a bad reputation, and so you might think, oh my God, I can't believe you bought that car. It's like it's gonna break down, you know? Or it might be something that you join me in the joy of celebrating, and then the time will come when it won't have that much of a meaning. So we're talking here about how much value we put on our perception. That doesn't mean you don't enjoy things. We can enjoy anything. We can enjoy everything. Hopefully we can live the happy dream and just be happy, you know, just happy all the time. We'd be nice if we were happy all the time. But it's different from being attached and invested on that which we're happy about. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this. It says, to know is to be certain. Uncertainty means that you do not know. Oh, there you go. Knowledge is power because it is certain, and certainty is strength. Perception is temporary. Perception is temporary. What was important to me 5 years ago may not be as important now. Certainly what was important to me when I was a child isn't as important to me now. But at the time, it was really important. Can you think of something that was really important to you when you were a child? My Pebbles doll comes to mind. It was based on the Flintstones.
Did I had a Tammy instead of a Barbie?
You had a Tammy?
Yeah, instead of a Barbie. I had a Tammy.
Tammy instead of a Barbie? I had a Pebbles doll, and it was like soft and squishy, and it was like the size of a baby. I love that little doll, you know? But now, if somebody give me a Pebbles doll, I'd be like, well, let's pass it on to another child. I mean, to a child. I'm no longer. Maybe I am. I don't know. But you know, it's not as important now. Things change. Our perceptions are temporary. So what we want to get to a place of knowledge that's not just about book knowledge. It's about a level of knowing that is so deep that we have certainty. This is if anybody's ever studied Kabbalah, there's a Kabbalistic concept on certainty. And it's a major principle of Kabbalah, that you inject certainty. You inject certainty. And the idea is that you become so filled with this deep knowing that you don't even have to rely on faith or trust, because there's nothing outside of you. It's all within you in a place of deep knowing, deep wisdom. And when you can get to that, then you can have this sense of being truly connected to spirit and to peace and to an inner calm, because you are certain. You have certainty of purpose, certainty of truth, certainty of atonement. The Course uses the word atonement a lot, and it's not used in the typical sense. It's of what might be considered Judeo-Christian interpretation of atonement. It is the recognition that all minds are joined and that we are of one mind and one body. So the atonement is the ultimate knowing, the ultimate place of certainty, which is what we're hoping to achieve. So let's go to paragraph 2. It says, all your difficulties stem from the fact that you do not recognize yourself, your brother, or God. To recognize means to know again, implying that you knew before, right? So just in case you're not familiar with A Course in Miracles, A Course in Miracles is a course in remembering. All mystics' paths are about remembering the truth of who we are, deconstructing all the messages of the world, deconstructing the voice of the subconscious mind. And it's bringing us back to the remembering of who we really are, the truth of who we really are. So we are not moving into some new territory, although it may feel new to us. We're actually moving into ancient territory. We're moving into a place that has always existed in time and in eternity. So in time, we have what would be considered the separation, where we decided that our egos know better and we're going to make the world what we want it to be. And we've made it what it is. It is not a place of ultimate peace because we have not yet had the tipping point of consciousness to make it so. And we won't get there until we have this place of true, certain wisdom within ourselves to know that that is our ultimate goal without having to sacrifice anything. See, right now we're caught up in a world of illusion where it's us versus them, good guys versus bad guys, Democrats versus Republicans. You know, it's so much of that divisiveness, and it's what we know, it's what we hang on to, and it's hard for us to let that go. And that's why a dedicated spiritual practice is so helpful, because we can get to a place where, I think it was Krishnamurti was asked one time, like, there's so much going on in the world, why aren't you upset? And he said, I just don't get bothered. Why not? I just don't. He had just gotten to a place where it just didn't matter. Not that he didn't care, but that he was no longer triggered by the events of the world. And I think it was him.
I think it was him.
Yeah, so it may be that he had reached this place of certainty, that he had reached this place of inner wisdom where he knew that all that stuff is not as essential to our well-being, our spiritual well-being, as is this place that we are stretching ourselves to find, this place of being in the world but not out of the world.
And I find,
Not
for
attachment.
me, that the first time that happened to me where I chose to not be disturbed, that's what I did. I chose not to be disturbed. Like you said, it wasn't that I didn't care or anything like that. I just chose not to be disturbed. It worked. So I want it to work more often. Once I had that experience,
Yes.
I don't want to be disturbed anymore. I choose not to be.
Right, and I like that, yeah, that idea is that you finally get it. Like if we can get to a place where something is happening and usually triggered us, and we're noticing now that, oh, not only am I not triggered, but I prefer this place of looking at it from a detached perspective, you know, being on the outside looking in. Reverend Stephanie, I think, is on the line, and she said that she uses the term, not enrolling. I'm not going to enroll in that particular curriculum. You know, this
Huh? That's our teacher.
That's right. She was a teacher for many years, so it's a good analogy. So something is happening, some upset is occurring, and you say, "Oh, this is a lesson. Everything's a lesson. So which is the curriculum I want to enroll in? The curriculum that says fight, defend, attack, counterattack." Or the curriculum that says, I can see this differently. I can see peace instead of this. I can decide not to be upset by this. And it takes discipline. That's what we're working on. I'm not saying that it's easy. We're saying that it's what we want to attain, which is what you were saying, that it works. It works when you work it, as they say. So let's see. let's go to paragraph 4. It says, true vision is the natural perception of spiritual sight, but it is still a correction rather than a fact. So we are correcting ourselves, and sometimes we have to correct ourselves midstream, right? We can correct ourselves as we're starting to notice that we're enrolling into that curriculum of upset, or attack, or counterattack, or defend. And there's things that are just, weighing on you. Could even be years ago. Could be months ago. Like my confession. There's stuff weighing on me, right? And it's like, oh, I am still dedicated to this idea of do not attack, do not defend, just pray. Pray through it. Pray through it so you can reach this place of inner peace, inner knowing, inner knowledge, deeper, wiser vision. It's not the vision of your eyes that creates perception, but the vision of Christ, the vision of love. We can call it Christ vision, Buddha vision, Shiva vision. It's the vision that it comes with the correction of our perceptions. That's true knowledge. That's where we move to a place of wisdom. It says, when you love someone, I'm in paragraph 5 now. When you love someone, you have perceived him as he is, and this makes it possible for you to know him. Until you first perceive him as he is, you cannot know him. Okay, does anybody remember this quote? I'm going to see if I can remember it properly. Marianne Williamson had this quote where she said, until you've seen someone's darkness, you don't know who they are. Until you've forgiven someone's darkness, you don't know what love is. It doesn't mean that if someone is being cruel or abusive, that you just go, yeah, bring it on. It's not that. We always want to use discernment, but we want to be able to see with eyes of love and eyes of clarity. So when we are looking at someone and when we love someone, especially when we love someone because of who we think they are, it's easy to love them. But then when they move out of our idealized vision of who we think they are and they start showing us another side, we might start feeling ourselves moving out of love and moving into expectation, moving into a place of wanting that person to be different. So if we can love from this place of deeper knowing, deeper loving, deeper vision, then we continue to see that person as who they really are. Darkness and all. Even their darkness. And to forgive their darkness. And to forgive our own darkness as well. While you ask questions about him, your brother, your sister, you are clearly implying that you do not know God. Why? Because if you see someone as they truly are, then they are a reflection of spirit. They are a true reflection of the creative force that made you perfect. And if you were made perfect, then so was everyone else and everything else. And so if we can get to that place, even if it's just a peak, just a moment in time where we sort of peek into this truth, it would be easier for us to be forgiving of ourselves and of others. Paragraph 6. Right perception is necessary before God can communicate directly to his altars, which he established in his Son. Well, the altar is your heart. Remember, we've said this time and time again that we're not trying to change the world by changing our vision. We're trying to change our hearts by changing our vision. Change our vision to bring our hearts to a place of greater compassion, greater capacity for love, for being loving, for being compassionate, for being kind. Any comments on any questions out there? Any questions in here? Comments, questions? God is not a stranger to his sons, and his sons are not strangers to each other. Knowledge preceded both perception and time and will ultimately replace them. What does that mean? That means that the place of perfection where we began, where we truly are, is the place we're all working to get back to. So this is, like I said, it's not new information. It's the deconstruction of information that is not serving us. It's like we have layers and layers and layers of information that has affected the way we see the world, how we see ourselves, has affected our willingness to be forgiving, to be loving, to be compassionate, because we have hurt, we have anger, whatever it is that we have that is like a veil, it's like a cloud in our vision. We're trying to blow those clouds away, push them away, to see the light beyond them. We have someone here who's sitting in a high chair, so I can look over them. They look very majestic. Like the Queen's wave. That is nice though. We're social distancing, so we had to put a chair way back in the back. Number 7, paragraph 7. If you attack the error in another, you hurt yourself. Here's one that we often forget, because if you come from a disruptive childhood, then you might have a tendency to be disruptive in your interactions when you are upset, right? So you might think, I have to hurt that person because they're hurting me, but every time you strike out, you're hurting yourself. You know, it's like the Buddhist concept of there was a warrior who came to see the Buddha, and he said, I want to know what heaven is, I want to know what hell is. And the Buddha said, well, hell is you walking around with that stick. He said it just like that too. And so the guy was like, yeah, you think so? And he was right about to raise that stick to beat the Buddha. And the Buddha just stayed calm. And the man was like, why is he so calm? How can you be calm in the face of you're about to get a beating? And he put the stick down. And the Buddha said, that is heaven. The laying down of your arms, that is heaven. The laying down of your need to attack, that is heaven. That is the ability to see more deeply and to find this place within yourself that you may not even have known you were capable of. Unless you were always peaceful. Some people are. Some people are just always peaceful. Some of us have to work a little harder. So it says, if you attack error in another, you hurt yourself. So have you ever been the person, or have you met the person who needs to give you a litany of your faults? You know, to tell you what you've done wrong and why you've done wrong and why you're wrong and what you should have said and what you could have said and what would have been better. Oh, that's so exhausting. It's so exhausting, right? If we could just let it be, let ourselves be, let the other be. So we don't want to attack the error another, or else we hurt ourselves. You cannot know your brother when you attack him. Attack is always made upon a stranger. That means you've made a stranger of your brother, of the one that you love. You are making him a stranger by misperceiving him, and so you cannot know him. It is because you have made him a stranger that you are afraid of him. Perceive him correctly, and you can know him. There are no strangers in God's creation. To create as he created, you can create only what you know, not what you perceive, but what you truly deeply know. Let's take a deep breath and just sit with that for a minute. What do we deeply, truly know? What do we want to know? Do we want to know this stuff? Do we want to do this work? Ask yourself that. Because if you really do, then there may be times when you feel challenged. You know, another thing Marianne Williamson said is when you make these dedications, there's a wrecking ball that comes into your life. Why? Because it's wrecking your ego. It's breaking down your ego. So there's going to be some resistance. You might have opportunities to be blessed by the guru who attacks you, the person who makes some sort of difficult trigger happen in you. I say makes because it's not really anybody else's responsibility, but we feel that this other thing is happening to us, that we're being triggered by this other thing. Like the guy who knocked down the door at the Dollar Tree. He scared me. I was scared. I do with my fear? Well, I'm happy to say nobody attacked him. Maybe they did in their minds. But let's just spend a few moments internally doing our own inventory. Just go inside there. Go inside your head. And if you got upsets, you got anger, bring it down into your heart. Bring it down to your heart. Past your physical eyes. Imagine you're taking something from your head, and you're passing your physical eyes, and then bringing it to your heart and inserting the certainty of compassion, the certainty of knowing that when you change your vision, you cease hurting yourself. It's wise wisdom. It's a wise step. All right, so we're going to move into section 4 just a little bit. How's our time?
49.
Isn't that interesting? I think every week when I ask you what time it is, you say 7:49. So I must, something inside me must know that it's 7:49. Let's see what happens next week. All right.
You better say 7:49.
No, you'll just tell me what it is. So the next section is error and the ego. The very first line there says, the abilities you now possess are only shadows of your real strength. Remember last week we talked about the cameo in the CE edition that where Jesus says, my strength will carry you. Because we don't know the depth of our strength, of our capability, of our capacity for really getting this stuff done. Really getting to a place of peaceful vision, loving vision, compassionate vision. We don't even know our capacity. We just know we're being told constantly in this book that yes, you have the capacity. It is within you. So we are working toward knowing that. Not just perceiving it, not just thinking about it, but to truly know it, to integrate it so that it becomes a way of understanding who we truly are and who everyone else really is as well. Let's see, paragraph 3. It says the ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. And this is a part of the course that a lot of people have trouble with, which is that we made the world what it is. That's not to say that we created the world. The world was created by the divine. We were created by the divine, but then we made the world what it is through our free will. And our free will was the maker of the ego. The part that said, oh, I'm going to do this all on my own. And our vision started to change. Our way of seeing the world started to change. Our way of interacting with the world started to change. You know, it's that old joke where the world started with Adam and Eve and 2 others, and they couldn't even get along, you know, because Cain and Abel were fighting. So one of them killed the other. But the idea was that they fell asleep. They fell into a deep sleep. In the book of Genesis, it says Adam fell asleep. There was no place where it says there was an awakening. And that's part of humankind's effort to awaken. That's what we're doing now. We're working on our awakening. Don't beat yourself up for not being where you'd like to be. We're all just right here. We're just right here together. Let's go to paragraph 7. God and his creations remain in surety. So this is certainty. And therefore know that no miscreation exists. Truth cannot deal with error that you want, right? Because sometimes we want things to be of our making, and no matter how much we doubt, whatever is true will remain true. The truth of who you are will remain true, no matter how much you doubt yourself. There's a lot of things we can doubt, but they remain true. And so the Course is trying to get us to see the truth of who we are and who everyone else is. It's kind of like doubting gravity. That's like a good example because it's easier than doubting esoteric concepts. So if you jump off a bridge, hopefully there's water underneath. If you jump off a bridge and you say, I'm going to jump off this bridge and prove that there's no gravity because I don't believe in gravity, you're still going to fall because gravity is a truth. gravity exists. So your gravity's going to pull you down. You're going to land in the pool, in the water. Just because you don't believe in it doesn't make it not true. The same thing with our spiritual truth. There's certain things that will just exist and be. And our job is to remove the doubts, remove the blocks to love. The Course tells us all the time. All we're doing is removing the blocks that we put in front of our vision, or the clouds that we think we're seeing instead of the light beyond the clouds. I'm interrupting my own thought, a commercial break, because Rumi says something to that effect. There's a poem by Rumi where he says that there's this place where we break our vows, where we forget who we are. That he says, even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come whoever you are, and this is a caravan, but not a caravan of despair. It's the idea that we always can come back. Just because we stumble doesn't mean we've fallen and we cannot get up and back on the path. Once we know we start touching some truth, we start tasting the truth, we start experiencing the truth, no matter how many times we fall away, we will always come back to it. Because there's something inside us that's pulling to it. That place of knowing, that place of inner wisdom is pulling us back. That's why once you get started on the spiritual path, no matter how much difficulty you have in life, no matter how many mistakes you made, no matter how many times you act out in a way that is not your best self, you will still come back to this desire for your connection with Source. It's a hunger. It's a hunger that we all share. Question? Oh. Just a time check? Oh, okay, I see. This is interesting because now Jesus is speaking to us directly. He says, I was a man who remembered spirit and its knowledge. As a man, I did not attempt to counteract error with knowledge, but to correct error from the bottom up. I demonstrated both the powerlessness of the body and the power of the mind. The body is fragile. The body is vulnerable. Your spirit is not. Your spirit is not. Your spirit is eternal. And then he says, I cannot unite your will with God's for you, but I can erase all misperceptions from your mind if you will bring your mind under my guidance. Only your misperceptions stand in your way. Many are called, but few are chosen, should be said rightly. All are called, but few choose to listen. The chosen ones are merely those who choose right sooner. What? Right mind, right vision. God knows you only in peace, and this is your reality. So, wow, this is our task. This is where we are moving toward. This place of daily practice and using the Course material to wake up, to be in a place of awakening, and to allow ourselves to be an open vessel for spirit. And like I said, it's not book knowledge, it's not what's in your head, it's what's in your heart. Getting to that place of true wisdom. Because we are here to be the light. We are here to bring light in the world. Which brings me to, before our closing song and our closing prayer, I want to quote our, America's sweetheart. As of yesterday, we've all fallen in love with Amanda Gorman, the poet laureate that spoke at the inauguration yesterday. And I know this has been repeated a lot today, but it bears repeating time and time again. It says, there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. You are the light. You certainly are. You are the light. So let's all take a nice deep breath. Close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, and let's see if we can move to the final song for tonight. I don't even know if this is the right song. We'll see. I think so. Whatever it is, we're going to listen to this one, even if it's not the right one. So hang on for the final song of the evening, and after the final song, there's a final prayer. Thank you all for being here tonight. I love when we're together, and I guess we can start to take this down. And it's going to be a surprise because I think I have the song ready for us, but it may have moved on to something completely different. Who knows? We're about to find out. The song I want to share with you is a song that says that we know who we are on a daily basis. We know how we act in a way that sometimes isn't our best self, but we still want to be that best self. We still want to move in a direction of trying to be more like mercy, more like kindness, more like Jesus, more like Buddha, more like the masters who came before us to tell us that we have it within us to do better and be better. So let's see what song comes up. Well, thank you for being here. That was not the chosen closing song, but you know, who doesn't love Lauren Daigle? Lauren Daigle's great, and that song says that sometimes I don't believe in myself, but isn't it wonderful that God believes in me? Sometimes you don't believe in yourself, but isn't it wonderful that Spirit still sees you as amazing and divine and precious, amazing, precious light in the world. And let's end with this. I rest in God. We ask for rest and quietness unshaken by the world's appearances. We ask for peace and stillness in the midst of all turmoil, born of clashing dreams. We ask for safety and for happiness, although we seem to look on danger and sorrow at times. And we have the thought that will answer our asking with what we request. I rest in God. This thought will bring you to the rest, to the quiet, to the peace and the stillness and the mighty happiness that you seek. I rest in God. Amen to that. I rest in that. Thank you all for being here. See you next Thursday. Oh, there is, thank you. There's a basket being passed right now. This is for our kind and generous loving donations that allows the ministry to continue. A link will be following the video. Thanks very much. God bless you.